All right, so we'll have a little bit of a chat about the fire because that was like a real pivotal moment for us and our lives. And you finally knew that you couldn't put us through what we're going through, and you tried.
I couldn't put myself through that.
And anymore, and you decided you were leaving. So that was in 2003. That day, it was obviously very traumatic. So just explain or take your time. What do you remember
leading
from
up to that day?
Yeah. What were the signs?
Well, that I was going to move out and then looking for somewhere to go. And I think your father probably didn't believe I was going to do that, but yeah, he was trying to make me to talk me out of it, moving. But we hadn't found a place or anything. I just was talking about that, you know.
Yeah,
I had enough that. Yeah, I asked him if he was still gambling, and he said no, but I knew he was still gambling. I found receipts in the car, and it wasn't just a little bit of gambling, like, you know, $10. It was a lot of money.
Yeah,
hundreds of dollars
back then.
And you know, I just started working I suppose I was working for 2 years then. Yeah, and you know, 4 kids to bring up.
And we noticed too.
I went back to, started working, you know, so we could have more. And he wasn't working, but he was still, wasn't 100%, but he was working a little bit now and then. So, but yeah, when we'd been struggling for years, you know, I just kept hoping, you know, that it would stop. And your dreams of married life is, you know, have your own place to get ahead when we were going backwards. Yeah, that I was leaving, and yeah, he tried to talk me out of it and things, and everything seemed okay. And then just probably that morning, I was up, he took off the night before. He went out, saw a friend, come home late. Then that morning he left and took my car, and I heard him go. And then I was up making lunches for school. It was a Monday morning.
Yeah, we had school
Monday morning, and I was going to work. And then he come home and he just walked into the house with 2 petrol cans, jerry cans full of petrol, and said, "You better get out of here." And yeah, I was just like terrified, and I just froze.
Because you were screaming, and that's, I think, I woke up.
He said, "You better get out of here." Like, and he just screamed, like I was just frozen.
Yeah.
And then I just ran into the bedrooms and woke you up.
Yeah.
And the boys were asleep, I woke them up. But yeah, the night before, he was a bit funny the night before. But then, yeah, he went out and come home late, and I think he slept on the lounge. But yeah, there was never anything. I had never thought he would do that. And yeah, I just woke us up, and yeah, and I just said, what did I say? I didn't say nothing because I was just, the tone of his voice, I could tell that, like, it wasn't him, it was someone else. Yeah. It was like another person.
Yeah.
Like something had taken over him.
I remember looking at him, and we were begging for him to stop.
Like, his face was frozen. Like
Tim, and Tim was the last one to go. He was like, don't.
When I got his out, and I said across the road to bring the police. Like, maybe just
and Nick was 11. I was 15, and Tim was
15. And the neighbour, the elderly lady lived across the road, and I said, just run over and tell the lady if she can bring the police, because I was too scared to get on, you know, if I got on the phone, he would have, I don't know what would have happened. And then I remember grabbing some photos from my room, and he said, leave him like that, and he, like, went to, like, splash the petrol on me, and it got on my legs, and I was just terrified, and I just thought of, like, I just thought of the bedroom window jumping through it if I had to, you know. Yeah. But yours was out, but then you and Tim were at the back door, and you went back in to say, "Dad, get out. Like, don't. You were just calling, don't. I can hear it in your voice. Like,
yeah. Okay.
We'll just see you there calling, Dad, don't. You know, and I'm there, and then I'm worried about you going back in, and I'm thinking, and then I remember being in the driveway, and then just going up the driveway, and Nick and Kiara and the neighbours,
because we were screaming. I think at that point it was,
and then because the house,
went up in a second,
because it was petrol all through the house, and then there was a big explosion, and that was probably the TV. I don't know what that was. Or the fridge,
think because he opened the door, and that's when he came out.
Yeah,
because the air.
That was that.
I researched this stuff. This is how.
Yeah, and like, of course, it was, you know, like maybe 6:30 Monday morning, and everybody, you know, like they heard the smoke, and everyone come to help. Like, oh my God, there's a house fire. Like,
And
the neighbours across the road. And
because when it went up, I was just standing next to Kiara and Nick, and I didn't know what, like, I was trying to protect them, and then Tim was running up the driveway, and then that's when it went. And then I remember just dropping,
and then your dad,
you and my friend, like,
and then I remember your dad flying out the front door, like he just flew out, and threw himself on there, and his clothes were off it,
and Tim got the hose,
and the neighbour got the hose, and we were across the road then, Then that was hard, like just seeing him. Oh my God, but that was terrifying because he was just looking. And then when they moved him away from the house because the wires caught on fire.
Oh,
it was like, and then like an elderly neighbour, and she was terrified because she was worried about,
her house.
Just seeing that for her. And the people come from everywhere in the street.
We lived there for over 10 years. Like, we knew everyone. We grew up there.
People come in the street because they all knew we were, like people just heard the noise and the fire to come and help. And then my brother, other people. But that was a bit later. But your father got draped, they carried him over to the best they could to the house across the road. And he was, they're just keeping the hose on him while the ambulance come. And, that saved his life probably. Yeah.
Yeah. And I remember when the ambulance did come, they put him in and you were inside, or you just went in and they
were out the front. And
they told us to say goodbye. They said to me and Tim, your father probably won't make it. Come and say goodbye. I remember me and Tim there, and like he just had the blanket on him and he was just shaking.
Yeah,
obviously shocked. And that's when it would have been like, what have I done? Like, I'm probably not even. He wouldn't have even been able to think that.
It would have been terrible. Yeah.
And then we just had to stand there and be like, bye.
But he was still in that state. He was still in the that manic, whatever they call it.
Yeah, that's what I always found it hard.
Because he was laying there staring.
He said that he thought of us, and then like that's what made him realize, what am I doing? Because he said we obviously spoke about it after, but once he had actually lit the house, like lit the lighter, then he realized what he was doing, and he said he thought of us, and he kind of snapped out of it a bit, but then it was too late. It was, and that's why I always did a lot of research too, because I think just how I am with
the mental illness took over. Like it's psychotic. He was psychotic because he was still laying on the grass across the road and looking at me. So, and the look was
the black eyes.
Black eyes. Plus, he was like,
not him.
No, not him. Like something had taken over. Like they say, a demon takes over your body. That's what it was like, because he was staring like.
I remember. And it wasn't Dad.
No, so and that person. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, but then after he probably healed a lot from that. But for me, it just was the hurt, because I put up with all them years, and then
for that.
Yeah.
To happen.
Like I'd put up with enough, and I was leaving and he didn't want me to leave, but
that wasn't the way.
And to him it was an embarrassment for me to leave. Like, like he didn't want people to know what was going on.
But it could have been.
Like I spoke to my mum before I was leaving, and I said, I can't do it anymore. She said, well, you try and keep your family together as long as you can. But
you did.
Yeah. And that day it was like it never happened. Like it was like a dream. I hadn't even moved out yet. Like, and the regret and the guilt. Sometimes I still have it, because he's not here to see his grandchildren. And you missed out on so much. Like how successful you all are, and it's all that part. People not understanding. I just think he had a breakdown and that was it, but they don't know the hot story.
Yeah, what happened for the years. And that's why I think with me sharing the podcast,
it's really hard.
And everything that I've shared is stuff that, like, a lot of things, and we're more different now. We talk about it more, and even sharing more with Dad's side of the family, and just being open about like what it actually was like growing up, because it was a lot worse, and you just don't really know. But I think
you see the effect on your children. Like my younger son Nicholas was very shy, and even you all were like, if your father come home in a funny mood, didn't turn up for a birthday, you would. That's devastating for young children to wait, daddy to come home for the birthday cake and that. And not, waiting, and then it's, time for bed. So you have to.
Yeah. I think as well, it got to a point, I was obviously 15, and I remember telling you, like, I don't want to live. I ran away from home before all the fire.
Yeah, yes.
And I got to a point where I just didn't want to be there, because it was just. And
it was probably arguing and things that weren't, you didn't want to be there about.
No, and then that's when for years after that I blamed myself.
Yeah.
I know we all kind of did our
We
own
all
thing, and
sort of
Tim
did
as
our-
well, because
he didn't want to he didn't celebrate his birthday.
yeah,
Just before, just after his birthday.
right, yeah, it was just 10 days.
And then he was moving out. He was going to stay with your dad, live there for a little bit. But then he said, "No, I'll come with you, Mum." Like,
Yeah,
and he felt guilty about that. And he was 14 years old. Like,
and I think as well, like that's where I said to you previously, like after that, that's when I really started to like party and drink, and that's where I feel like my dopamine relationship with alcohol. Like obviously I went to school, I still went to did year 12 and uni, like I've you know, so much stuff, but it's like that is what helped me deal with a lot, is just numbing the pain.
it is, because I think I did the same. You know, I had 2 weeks off work, and my work, of course, I knew what happened, everyone knew. But and my friends at work knew. I worked in home care, so I went to elderly clients,
And they didn't, you couldn't.
and I had just said my son had a bad accident. I had this. That's what I said. My son had a bad accident.
tell
He
them
was
what
in
happened.
hospital, so that's why I've been off. Because they all want to know, oh, how come you had time?
They were regular
Are you okay?
clients. Yeah.
And you know, you get to see the same people every week.
That would have been
Get
really
very
hard.
close, and and I just have to go back and pretend everything was normal, which was really
Not, we just lost our whole lives.
Yeah.
Dad was,
And we moved in
on
with
life
my
support.
brother, so we moved to another suburb, able to get back to school and all your sports, because that was the best thing to do, get back to normal life. And and that was hard. And we lived there, and then we had to find somewhere to live. And lucky, you know, I had family that supported me.
yeah, we're very lucky. Maybe I was
We had somewhere to live for a few months until we got back on our feet. But I remember just thanking God that, you know, you were all safe that day, because we all could have lost either one, all of us. I'm sure your father, you know, he made sure we were out of the house. So
Yeah, and that's something. So I know
I think it was just
that was a difficult decision after as well, is letting him see us after the fire.
Oh, you were
How
old.
did you navigate that? Because I know it was hard, because obviously you're a mother and you want to protect us, but then, you know, you, like you said before, he was always still our father,
Yeah, of course.
and he loved us, but
And
just-
he was very unwell, and they didn't know if that night, I think a couple of nights we'd already went to my brother's, and you would talk to him on the phone. Yeah, and
because we didn't really know if he was going to make it.
no, and that's why I said maybe we should go and see him. And you went down.
Yeah.
You went and saw him, and I went and saw him, and all my family went and saw him.
Yeah.
Friends, everyone went to see him.
Because it was quite traumatic. I remember when we first saw him, he was just all bandaged. It was like,
Yeah, and then after
really
we
hard.
had, of course, anyone who's been burned, and especially that much. Yeah, it was traumatic for everyone, yeah. And then in the future, he went to rehab hospital. He got out of hospital, went to rehab hospital, and then that was when I went with my sister, and we went to see him. And that was very hard for them to see him, that of course, because he was a different person, even for me. When you see someone who looked a certain way and then he doesn't look that way.
I know, and that was always really hard, because
And you
it was
always have
like,
that in what I suppose what he did.
yeah.
That he could have killed us all, or
If something, if the house lit up, while like something could have sparked the fire while we were inside. The petrol was on the floor
what he did
Yeah.
to, you know.
in front of us.
I always used to wish I'd moved out, you know, all that night. I'd went somewhere so you wouldn't have saw what you saw.
'Cause, yeah, that was always a hard thing for you, knowing that. we saw it.
So guilty that you had to see that, and guilty for him that he got to that point,
No return.
and people don't understand. And then there was comments made that what did she do to him now? Like,
Yeah, I know, that's always been a
my
really hard
life.
one.
yeah,
Yeah,
because it was said by more than one person, and
Or
they
you-
got no idea what my life was like.
yeah. But that's the thing,
You know,
is because
they
people
see
just,
one side.
Yeah, they just blame the woman.
They've got to look at my children and what they went through and what they would have kept going through. And me, like, we had nothing. We were married for 17 years and we had nothing. And I started work and I was saving, and I thought, well, wonder why we had nothing. But
I
lucky,
think-
we lived where we lived. Like, we had support from family.
I think though one thing though is, like you said, we never went without. Like, we were still so lucky. We
Because
always
put
had
you
a
first, you know. And then, of course, you want your children to have what you never had growing up. And great childhood and happy, you know. We're always happy. Yeah, like I wanted to play sport, and I didn't want
and we
anything
always
to change.
did. Yeah, And we always, you'd always buy us stuff, and we always
have sport and go dancing and get that confidence that, you know, you need. Because I think that helps a lot with confidence. Kids learning resilience and all that.
Yeah, and it did. So looking back, do you think about what you could have done differently? I know you've said before there's a lot, you've got the regret. Obviously you mentioned maybe left a bit earlier or just left and then, or like reached out for help was another thing. Or do you feel like you kind of, you know, you did your best? I feel like you did your best from what you've got, but is there anything?
I think I did my best, but yeah, I mean, I could have said, oh, let's give one more try, but I don't think it would. Now realising I don't think anything would have changed because
it's the constant.
It continued anyway after. So, yeah, I don't think anything would have changed. Of course, it would have been easier if I didn't, you know, leave and be on my own and have to start off from nothing.
Yeah.
From scratch all over again. But then,
I know, a single mum with 4 kids, yeah.
And so, yeah. And then, like, you know, it was hard. I mean, we got through it, but yeah, it was hard for you as teenagers too, because you had to live with that and get over that and not have that support, because you didn't get much support after your father. Yeah, when he moved away, he was, you know, you had visits and that, but it wasn't the same as him being closer.
Yeah.
And spending more time with him.
I know, and then his whole life kind of restarted and he had to learn to walk.
And that was easier for him to do that. Maybe that's how he coped. So we have to understand that that's how he coped, and he done a lot of work for the burns unit.
Yeah. So after the fire, obviously Dad, he began to rebuild his life. He started to work with charity. You know, he wanted to try and really change as a person. In the end, obviously what he was doing maybe was helping other people. Well, not maybe, like what Dad was doing helped a lot of other people.
Yes.
But he didn't really focus on helping himself. And that's something that, you know, I feel like I have to be careful with doing the podcast, is I'm still looking after myself, or, you know.
You're still healing.
Yeah, and you really have to focus on putting yourself first, even as a mother. Do you feel like, Cal, it was hard for you to do that in a way, because you know, you had to always put us, is there things that you felt like you wish you did more for yourself?
Not really, because I wasn't ready to, like, after the fire and up, you know, we're living, you know, just us as a family, and I was working. My focus was to get a house.
Yeah.
And save. And, and to help you, you know, and start going on holidays and having fun.
Yeah.
With you and all the kids and, you know, myself. And then after, when I started going out, I started dancing, and that was like an outlet for me. And I met people, because I'd met people, but they were all with the surf club and, you know, soccer, but they were all people in our area that when I was with your father, so it was just hard and awkward. And I'd see people in, like, just shortly after, a few months, like at shopping centre, and didn't know what to say. Like, they feel uncomfortable. I feel, you know, I can understand that, because people sometimes don't know what to say, like, you know,
in those situations, unless you've been through something. Yeah,
that's right. And so I had that, started going out and met people and things like that, which was good. And I met my family were helpful and things like that. But it takes a long time to move on, and, like, you wish things could have been different. You had maybe a normal childhood, but you went through a lot. But a lot of people go through a lot, and some people go through with hardly any traumas in their life, but they still struggle. Like,
and I think that's
especially teenage years, a lot of kids struggle.
And I think that's been the hardest thing, though, well, in a way, is that, like, things when they were good, they were so good, but then when they were bad, they were so bad. And we obviously saw so much and we experienced a lot, but like, then there was still so many good times, and we were always so loved, and we had our family. And I think when someone can't give, you know, if they're struggling with their mental health, or their, you know, their partner is, or it's like, long as you love, it's at the end of the day, kids have love and support, like, they can come out okay.
Yeah.
And that's very big thing that I wanted to share.